Hey guys, and welcome back to Donica and Shelby Read. I'm Donica.
I'm Shelby.
And today we're doing something a little different. So we decided what we're going to do today is we're going to eat. We have picked up a little bit of Panera to go. We have our little Starby drinks with us. We're just going to kind of just talk about our feelings with the book. Try to see if we can do it a little more casually. And we probably won't do this every time, but we may. Who knows, So if you don't like watching people eat, if you don't like
car vlogs,
random rambles, I will go ahead and find you. I'm going to do you a favor because I love you that much. I'm going to find you a book review from someone else's channel. Click off of ours. Go on. Get out of here, crazy.
Do you want to quickly say what we have?
So we both got the You Picked Two from Panera. This is what I always get. I always get macaroni and cheese and the Reuben sandwich. They're just both really yummy. You can't go wrong.
I got the tomato soup and the heritage ham Swiss cheese sandwich or something. It's ham and Swiss and greens.
I get a iced coffee. This is a tall. So for my tall, I get 1 pump of vanilla and 1 pump of toffee nuts. No caustic syrup with extra cream. Yummy, yummy, delicious drink for the day.
And I just get the green tea latte, but I get it with coconut milk because I'm lactose intolerant, but it also tastes really good. And then I always get easy ice because it's just so creamy and yummy. I don't want ice watering it down.
Yeah.
So this week, our pick is Ask Again Yes by Mary Beth Keane, like we were talking about. We get to follow 2 generations of 2 particular families, the Gleasons and the Stanhopes. What links them in the beginning is the men of the family, both being rookie cops at the NYPD. And then as their lives go on and they get to get more intertwined, 2 of their children fall in love with each other. They have children, and we get to kind of see their story as they're going through their life. There is a severe offense that happens between the 2 families, and we get to see how they heal from that. I gave this book a 5-star. I think that this book it was just so well written, and one thing that I noticed is that I always felt the time period that it was in. I don't know, it was just so well written.
But not too in your face. Mm-mm. I was never okay, this is she's really trying to make the 80s in her face. It was more devices, like cell phones obviously didn't exist. So when Peter and George upgraded their phone, he told him, we don't need an answering machine anymore.
Oh, yeah.
He said, this comes with the voicemail on it. And just things like that. So, just to bounce off what Shelby said, yeah, this is definitely, I am not into contemporary. I joked with Shelby that I hadn't read a contemporary book since Where the Red Fern Grows in 5th grade. It's been more recent than that, but really quite a while back since I read a real contemporary book. I just think that this was such a good book. If you are like me and you don't like contemporary and you are just kind of maybe want to dip your toes into it, I think this is a good book to start off with. In this book, this is a very unique situation, but it wasn't so heartbreaking that it took me out. Everything that happened in this book I felt was very believable, this could happen to anybody. I think some main things that we talk about are mental illness. Mental illness plays a big role. Alcoholism is another very relatable problem, which also does tie into mental illness. So
Infidelity,
things that could happen to anyone and could happen all in one family. So I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was an amazing book, a great contemporary book to start off with. My problem is I thought it was a little boring sometimes, and I told Shelby that I think that was my issue with contemporary, not my issue with the author. It's my issue with, which I joke with her, the books I read have fairies and goblins or they're horror stories, or thrillers. So I tend to, I guess, get bored with the more real life scenarios. So Peter's part, I just found myself wishing, come on, let's get through Peter's part, because he really wasn't doing much, throughout his life. There wasn't a lot of drama. I mean, there was drama. This book does start in 1973. with Francis and Brian right out of the academy. They're partnered up. They're rookie cops on the job. By the end of the book, we are in present day, like 2018. Like we said, it just flows so naturally. It's only 388 pages. So at some parts of the book, you are flying through. You're jumping 10 years into the future. I think the biggest time jump was from whatever section we were in, and then it went to Anne. And Anne, her life was so monotonous that years would fly by of her life without it really anything happening. So we would fly through like 10 years, and then we'd be in a new part, but you never felt like you were lost. You never felt like you missed out on too much of someone's life. It's just another chapter that you were getting into of their life.
Yeah, but I still feel like the author did a great job of, I felt like I knew them.
So before we get to like the main big event that, you know, breaks apart the families, what did you think about Kate and Peter's love? Like, because I think you're different than me. You did it differently.
If y'all read the book, y'all know that Kate, as if I know them, good old Kate and Pete.
KK and PP, like I like to call them.
I guess I'm a romantic because
Yes, you are.
I loved that they stuck together. I loved that they stayed friends in school. I loved that they rode the bus every single day, and we slowly got to see how, like, them getting close to each other was getting more awkward, and they were starting to like each other. So then by the time they were teenagers, and Peter was telling Kate that him and his dad was going to move to Queens, and then they snuck out of the house at midnight in the rain.
It was just so realistic
to you? To me, it was like, oh, was it realistic to me? Do I think someone would actually do that?
I think so. I told Shelby, being a mom and being a little bit older than her, I view it differently. It was very Romeo and Juliet. So their love was super, to me, it wasn't crazy to think that two kids would do this. It was not crazy at all. It annoyed me because I'm like, come on, Kate. Like, there's so many other boys. But that relationship, by the end of the book, my feelings were completely different. But at that point, I was annoyed.
To me, this entire book, even despite, spoiler alert, Peter's alcoholism, he was like the ideal guy.
I know, and it was never his fault. That's the sad part. It was never his fault. If he had two good parents, they would have thrown Kate at him. Like, if he had a good family, you're like, oh my gosh, he's such a good boy. But
he was still a great father, and he was still a great husband, and he was a great... He held out for Kate. His work ethic was so good. He got to go to college for free. And
despite Kate getting a boyfriend, it never once mentioned Peter was with anyone. Never. I mean,
so their love, I love their love. But it wasn't until after the book that I actually did start thinking, did the parents have, like, was there merit to them not wanting Kate to be with him? And I was like, it was after the book that I realized, yes, they were so traumatized. This family is trouble. Why wouldn't you tell your daughter, like,
and like
just try someone else, please?
As a parent, you see two really unstable people, it doesn't even matter if there's a 1% chance that Kate doesn't make it out of that. It's like, it's enough to where I would say, like, please don't be with this boy.
I definitely get her parents. I don't blame them at all for that.
Because at the end of the day, Lena and Francis were amazing parents. Amazing parents. So, like, anything they did, I'm like, you did the exact right thing, because y'all are perfect in my eyes, you know?
And Kate, I loved Kate. I think she's a super strong woman. I think she's amazing. I love how she treated Peter. When
the shooting happened, and throughout the rest of the book, you realize that Brian, who, anytime I say Brian's name, I don't even want to know Brian in real life now, because I'm just so annoyed. So on the night that the shooting occurred, he literally knows Anne has the gun, walks away, and Anne, who is cruel and unstable, says at one point, you didn't even have the decency to take Peter with you when you thought I was going to shoot myself in the head.
Yeah, he didn't take Peter with him. He was just going to either let his wife shoot Peter or let Peter witness his mom kill herself.
It was funny because I was joking with Shelby. I was like, am I going to change my rating to 5 stars? Because the more I talk about this book, I'm just like, she just wrote everything so well. I just personally, I mean, it's really not like this with all the books I read. I think we've just gotten lucky recently, but I really never at one point did I not think I wouldn't finish this book. Never at one point did I think, it was a good book. It was written really well. I just love all the characters because I think they're all believable. I mean, I hated Brian for a believable reason, Like,
and you know what's crazy? I always still felt bad for Brian. Like, I always still did. Even at the end when I figured out, like, his true cowardice, I still did feel bad for him. I don't know how to explain it. Like,
no, you're just so sweet, You find redeeming qualities in everyone. He did love Peter. And at the end, you see he did love Anne. And I don't think he ever... As we're reading the book, we may think, oh, he's off in Georgia with a new family, a new wife. But it appears he never loved another woman. And he never stopped loving Peter.
I feel like his life probably... I just picture his life in Georgia just stagnant. Like,
I'm too sure stagnant. He had diabetes.
These are humans who just sometimes are like, okay, there's a 50-50 chance I'm going to land right, so let me just click this option because that's like all I can do. I could hope that I could muster up the dignity to make the best call, but that's what I just love about the book.
I was appreciative that certain things I don't like discussed in books. Certain things I just am too uncomfortable with, which I think is okay to be. Sometimes I'm just like, why are you so sensitive? Well, I think it is okay to be sensitive about certain topics and not want to read about them because it's rough, it's tough. So once again, I think statistic-wise, I believe the author really hit it home for when Francis cheated on Lena. I do believe if you just look at everything, a partner usually cheats because they feel unwanted, unloved, and Lena, which we don't hold it against her because she had to take care of him like a baby. I mean, I think it was probably hard for her to feel affectionate to him in that way. I do think it was believable that he cheated on her. Yeah, believable. So I know we were like raging against the machine when he was cheating. I'm like, I know Lena did not pull you Alcestis like from hell like
I know
Apollo.
And it's like Francis, like you're a good father, you're a good husband, like,
but he's just a human after all.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things, and it's almost like it's not necessarily redeeming that when she got cancer he cut it off cold turkey. I mean, it's nice that he didn't continue. That's just so hard for me to wrap my head around. But then again, that's life. That's a subject that's so hard to wrap your head around. Infidelity, like the things that lead to it. How can you forgive someone? Like, that's the thing about this book. It's all about forgiveness. And I think this was a really good book for me to read right now. Forgiveness is like, I guess it's just one of the hardest things for me.
For me too. That's like something I'm like constantly working towards, is being able to forgive. And I think this book shows you, in just the way it can, that forgiving is beneficial to you more so maybe even than the person you're forgiving. So
what was that quote? You repeat what you don't repair.
Reading it and you're like, why is Anne the way she is? Like, what could have caused her? Because Ireland at this point is kind of this not talked about thing. We don't know much about her family. We don't know much about anything. So when Anne was younger, we find out more of her backstory and how she was abused by a neighbor repeatedly. And once again, it was that's one of the topics I don't like reading about. But the author writes it in such a way as just to explain, once again, I believe, plausibly, why Anne would have what she has or why she acts how she acts. So I just think everything was done really well, really respectably.
And then we find out that her mom also committed suicide.
I just love that mental illness has been kind of in our last two books unintentionally. I don't know, it's just really important to read about those things and talk about it. So it's kind of cool that we have, that topic on both of our books. Well, anyway, that was delicious and nutritious.
It was delicious and nutritious. Hey, dare I say, this is the start of our new series, Sips and Quips.
Oh, here we go.
Let's talk about it. A couple parts that we cried on.
And mind you, I didn't sob once. I didn't sob uncontrollably. I'll just do like 3 of the first 3 times I cried. One was when Anne had just slapped Peter and she had broken his ship that she had bought him. and she had shoved him, and she was just being so cruel to him. And I think we had just kind of learned about him making dinner for himself, and he's only maybe 8 years old at this time, or and just hearing about Brian telling him to pack all his stuff and just saying, you did this to Lena or to Anne. It was really hard. It was anything with children. Okay, but this one's kind of funny, because it was Francis talking about his daughter Kate, and it was right when they had got caught sneaking out right before the shooting happened, and he was just like looking at her. I can't even say it. It's not sad. It just reminds me of my daughter so much.
I found it.
How little she looked, and just thinking about her. She's a child, and just made me think of my daughter. She's a tomboy, and she reminds me of Kate so much. Like I said, I was a little wild ass like Kate when I was little, so I'm sure my daughter Cammie will be as crazy, if not crazier. So anyway, that just made me cry, because
I see it. That part was beautiful.
That's her daddy, and my husband is like, absolutely, my daughter is wrapped around his little pinky. So it made me think a lot about Derek talking about Camilla. And I was like, that's my problem. I put myself into the characters so much when I'm reading, because if you're reading and you're just reading words and you're not putting yourself into this book,
be vulnerable when you're reading and just feel it all. That's why I love books. They are cathartic for me. Is that the word?
George. We haven't even talked about George. The next time I cried was page 114. So, Brian had just left Peter for good. I mean, Peter knew. Peter was so mature for his age mentally, and he knew Brian wasn't coming back. He knew he couldn't rely on Brian, and George had just been making him feel so comfortable. Like, don't worry, you can stay here for as long as you want. Like, just amazing. So Peter gets home one day after his father leaves. George has rearranged everything, so Peter has this little space in his little tiny apartment in the living room. He has this little space. He had gotten a kitchen table because they didn't have one. He had bought 6 white porcelain plates so they could eat off of them. They'd only been eating off of paper plates. The 6 white porcelain plate, it just got me. It was so sweet.
Can I transition into one of mine?
Can we handle it?
No, but
yes, but unfortunately no.
They keep getting all of those voicemails.
I tapped it.
Peter's freaking out, and he's like, we need to get a new one. And
yes, we have to fix this effing machine, George. He's probably calling all the time. He's probably worried about me.
George, literally, like, the next day, Peter gets there, and the phone, he got a brand new phone, and George is, like, scrambling, and then we find out later that George is, like, clean dying when they moved in with him. Hold on. And then my other time was the boat.
Like I said, if you're a hardcore fan of contemporary, I don't think this book will disappoint you. I mean, it's a very easy read, and if you're like me and you don't necessarily like contemporary, well, I was reading this book and I was like, do I like contemporary? Like, I was like, huh? What was that?
In the world of contemporary, I'd consider this a real lifter upper. It ends on such a high note. Spot on. I couldn't have found it.
So
I couldn't have seen it ending another way.
Yeah.
I just spilled tomato soup all over Derek's cart.
Oh. Okay, guys, well,
if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, because we have some great stuff coming.
Maybe not great, but we have stuff coming.
We have things coming. We can't verify whether or not it's great.
Thank y'all guys for supporting us and sticking around. And until our next video, we will talk to you next time. Bye!